You are afraid of something right now. You may not be aware of it. It may not have a name. But somewhere beneath your thoughts, beneath your plans, beneath the surface of your ordinary day, there is a signal running. A prediction, not of what is happening, of what might happen. And that prediction is shaping everything. In 2017, a neuroscientist named Lisa Feldman Barrett published a finding that overturned a century of emotions research. She demonstrated, with brain imaging, computational modeling, and behavioral data, that the brain is not a reactive organ. It is a prediction machine. Your brain does not wait for the world to happen and then respond. It runs ahead. It generates a continuous simulation of what it expects to encounter next, and then projects that simulation outward as your experience of reality. You do not see the world and then feel afraid. You predict danger, and then you see a world that confirms it. This is not metaphor. This is the architecture. Barrett calls it the predictive brain, and it means something deeply uncomfortable. The reality you experience is not objective. It is a construction, assembled from your brain's best guesses about what is coming next. And the dominant ingredient in that construction, the single most powerful input shaping your predictions, is your emotional state. If you are in a state of safety, your brain predicts opportunity. You see openness, you notice doors. If you are in a state of fear, your brain predicts threat. You see walls, you notice danger. Same world. Different prediction, different reality. Here is where this becomes dangerous. Fear does not just change what you see. It changes what your brain expects to see next, and what your brain expects to see next becomes the template for the next prediction. This is what neuroscientist Joe Dispenza describes as the feedback loop of identity. Your emotional state creates your thoughts. Your thoughts reinforce your emotional state, and the cycle hardens into a pattern that your body mistakes for truth. Dispenza has measured this. Using EEG and heart rate variability data across thousands of subjects, his research shows that people who live in chronic fear, anxiety, or stress are not merely feeling bad. They are running a neurological program that narrows their perception, reduces their cognitive flexibility, and literally constrains the range of possibilities their brain is willing to predict. The body becomes addicted to the chemistry of fear. Cortisol, adrenaline. The cascade becomes familiar, and familiar feels true even when it is destructive. Your brain starts filtering out information that contradicts the fear. It downweights positive signals. It amplifies threats, not because the threats are real, but because the prediction demands them. You're not reacting to a dangerous world. You're generating a dangerous world, one prediction at a time. And the longer the loop runs, the harder it becomes to see anything else. Because the prediction is no longer a guess. It has become the lens. Now bring this into physics. At the quantum level, the most fundamental layer of physical reality, particles do not exist in fixed states. They exist as probability waves, a cloud of potential outcomes, all superimposed, all possible, none yet real, until observation occurs. The act of measurement collapses the wave function. One possibility becomes actual, the rest vanish. This is the Copenhagen Interpretation, Bohr, Heisenberg, the foundation of modern quantum mechanics. And while physicists debate what observation means at this scale, the structure of the phenomenon is undeniable. Before observation, everything is possible. After observation, one reality is selected. Now hold Barrett's research next to this. Your brain is an observation machine. It does not passively receive reality. It actively generates a prediction, and then collapses the field of experience into that prediction. Fear is a specific kind of observation. It is the state in which the observer is locked into a narrow, threat-based prediction. The wave function of your experience does not collapse into the full range of what is possible. It collapses into the smallest, most constricted, most survival-driven subset. Fear does not show you reality. It selects the worst version of it and presents that version as the only one that exists. And you believe it, because it feels so real. But it is not real. It is a collapsed possibility, one outcome selected from an infinite field, selected not by truth, but by the state of the observer. Now, hold all of that, the predictive brain, the fear loop, the collapse of possibility, and turn to the 14th chapter of the Gospel of Matthew. The disciples are in a boat. A storm has risen. The wind is violent. The waves are high. And in the middle of the night, they see a figure walking toward them on the surface of the water. They are terrified. And Jesus says, and listen to this through the physics, "Take courage. It is I. Be not afraid." Be not afraid. Not stop worrying. Not calm down. Not have faith. Be not afraid. He is speaking directly to the observer state. He is saying, change the lens. Shift the observation. Because the reality you are collapsing right now, the storm, the threat, the impossibility, is a function of your fear, not of what is actually possible. And Peter gets it. For a moment, he gets it. He says, "Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water." And Jesus says, "Come." And Peter steps out of the boat, and he walks on the water. Not metaphorically, not symbolically, he walks on the water. What is happening in that moment if you read it through the science? Peter has shifted his observer state. He is no longer predicting from fear. He is predicting from faith, from coherence with the source. And in that state, the wave function of his reality does not collapse into the limitations that fear demands. It collapses into a possibility that fear cannot access. He is walking on the water because his observation, his prediction, his state, has selected a reality that the fearful mind cannot see. And then Matthew tells us exactly what happens next. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out. He saw the wind. He shifted back into fear. His observer state collapsed, and the reality he had been sustaining, the impossible reality of walking on water, dissolved. The physics did not change. The water did not change. The wind did not change. Peter changed. His observation collapsed. And Jesus does not rebuke him for being weak. He does not criticize his muscles or his effort. He asks a question, the most precise question anyone has ever asked about the nature of fear. "You of little faith, why did you doubt? Why did you change the lens? Why did you return to the prediction of fear? Why did you collapse the wave function back into limitation?" Here is something most people miss about the Bible. The phrase, "be not afraid," or "do not fear," or "fear not," appears approximately 365 times in Scripture. One for every day of the year. That is not a coincidence. That is not a literary device. That is a prescription. Because fear is not just an emotion in the biblical framework. It is the fundamental operational error, the primary malfunction of a conscious system designed to observe reality from a state of connection to the source. When you are afraid, you are disconnected. The antenna is misaligned. The branch is constricted. The valve tightens. The default mode network constructs the ego story of isolation and threat, and the reality you observe contracts to match. Every miracle Jesus performed happened in the presence of fear and required its absence. To the woman with the hemorrhage, Your faith has healed you, not your effort, your observer state. To Jairus, whose daughter had died, do not be afraid, only believe. Change the lens. Now, to the disciples in the storm, while Jesus slept in the boat, he was not ignoring the storm. He was demonstrating what an observer state of absolute coherence looks like. The storm was real. His fear was zero. And when he stood and spoke to the wind, "Peace, be still," the observation collapsed the chaos into order. Not because he commanded the weather like a magician, because his observer state was so coherent, so fully aligned with the source, that the field of reality organized itself around his observation. And this is where the deepest understanding lands. Faith, in the framework Jesus taught, is not belief without evidence. It is an observer state. It is the specific configuration of consciousness in which your predictive brain is aligned with the source rather than with fear. It is the state in which the valve is open, the antenna is tuned, the branch is connected, and the wave function of your experience collapses not into the narrow prediction of threat, but into the full possibility of what the source can sustain. Barrett showed that your brain builds reality from predictions. Dispenza showed that your emotional state determines those predictions. Quantum mechanics showed that observation collapses possibility into actuality. And Jesus said, "According to your faith, be it done to you." According to your observer state. According to your prediction. According to the lens through which you are collapsing the infinite field into your experience. That is not theology. That is a precise description of how consciousness interacts with reality. Fear collapses your reality into the smallest possible space. Faith collapses it into the largest. And the difference is not effort, not willpower, not positive thinking. The difference is connection to the vine, to the signal, to the source that does not predict from fear, because perfect love casts out fear. 1 John chapter 4, verse 18. Perfect love casts out fear, not overcomes it, not manages it, not copes with it, casts it out, removes it from the system entirely, because in the presence of perfect coherence with the source, the prediction of threat cannot sustain itself. The loop breaks, the lens clears, and reality reorganizes around the observation of a connected system. So here is the question, not what are you afraid of, because the specific fear does not matter. The question is, what are you observing? What is your brain predicting right now? What reality is your state constructing? Moment by moment, breath by breath, prediction by prediction. Because you're not watching reality happen. You are collapsing it into existence. And if your observer state is fear, if the loop is running, if the chemistry is familiar, if the prediction is locked into threat, then you are building the very prison you are trying to escape. But if your observer state shifts, if the connection to the source reopens, if the valve loosens, if the prediction aligns with something larger than your threat, then the wave function of your life does not have to collapse into what it has always collapsed into. Peter walked on water, not because the physics changed, because his observation did. And when he returned to fear, he sank, not because the water changed, because he did. You are not a victim of your circumstances. You are the observer of them. And your observation is not passive. It is the most creative act in the universe, the act that collapses infinite possibility into lived reality. Fear narrows that act. Faith expands it. And the source, the vine, the signal, the field that holds all possibility together, is not afraid, has never been afraid. Be not afraid. That is not comfort. That is not reassurance. That is the most precise instruction ever given to a conscious observer. 365 times. One for every day you will have to choose what lens to look through. And it was spoken directly to you.